changed? Did I lose my edge? Did she meet someone else? She used to get butterflies when your name lit up her phone. Now, your good morning texts feel like junk mail she scrolls past without reading. You pour out long messages. She replies with a single emoji 6 hours later. That switch from her chasing you to you chasing her hurts. Every guy knows the sting. You start asking yourself, what changed? Did I lose my edge? Did she meet someone else? The truth is uglier than you want to admit. You didn't become less attractive. You became too available. You drowned her in words. What felt like effort and care to you became noise and routine to her. In the beginning, your silence kept her hooked. Every pause was a puzzle. Every unanswered text made her wonder. That mystery was gasoline on her attraction. But the moment you started over-explaining, oversharing, over-communicating, you killed it. Most men think talking builds connection. They believe that the more they share, the closer she'll feel. But women don't fall in love with what they know. They fall for what they imagine. And when you give her everything, line by line, detail by detail, there's nothing left for her to fantasize about. No unknown, no tension, just another man she's already figured out. This video is the brutal wake-up call. I'll show you why talking too much destroys attraction, how silence creates respect, and why the less you say, the more she'll chase. Stay with me, because if you don't understand this, you'll keep texting your way out of her desire, one paragraph at a time. Most men believe the path to attraction is paved with words. They think if they keep talking, sharing, explaining, the woman will feel closer. But here's the twist. Not more words, but fewer. Not clarity, but mystery. That's what fuels desire. Remember how it felt at the start. You barely said anything, and she couldn't stop thinking about you. One dry text from you sent her into overdrive. She replayed it, dissected it, even asked her friends what it meant. Every pause was magnetic. Every unanswered question pulled her deeper. Your silence gave her something rare room to imagine. Then you decided to do the right thing. You opened up. You told her about your job, your gym routine, your plans. You believed communication was the bridge to intimacy, but instead of drawing her in, it pushed her out. The mystery collapsed. The fantasy she built in her head was replaced by reality. And reality, no matter how good, is never as intoxicating as the unknown. Here's the paradox. Men love when women talk. If a beautiful girl rambles about her life, we think, wow, she trusts me. So we project that same logic onto them. But attraction doesn't mirror. It inverts. Women don't crave information. They crave the blank spaces. The less they know, the more they invest emotionally. Not information, but imagination. Picture this. Two men on a first date. One spills his resume, career goals, family background, even childhood trauma. The other keeps it light, hints at depth, but never over-explains. Which man has her mind racing when she gets home? It's not the open book. It's the one she can't quite read. When you talk too much, you don't just bore her, you strip away tension. You leave nothing for her to wonder about, nothing to chase. Attraction isn't built on answers. It's built on questions she can't stop asking herself. Every extra detail you give is one less spark of curiosity. And here's the danger when men sense her interest fading. They panic. They pour out even more words. They text longer paragraphs. They try to explain, justify, convince, But that only speeds up the death spiral. The very thing you think will save you is the reason you're losing her. This is the trap most good men never escape. And unless you learn the real psychology behind silence, you'll keep repeating the cycle, talking your way out of attraction while thinking you're building it. Here's the secret most men never grasp. Silence isn't empty. It's magnetic. Every time you hold back, she leans forward. Every time you pause, her mind rushes to fill the gaps. And what she imagines is always more powerful than what you could ever explain. Think about luxury. Diamonds don't sit in open bins. They're locked away, guarded, scarce. That scarcity makes them valuable. Now compare that to a clearance rack at Walmart. Piles of shirts, all on display, all begging to be chosen. Which has higher status? Which creates more desire? The quiet man is the diamond. The chatterbox is the clearance rack. Here's the twist. Attraction isn't built by adding more. It's built by subtracting. Not exposure, but restraint. Not explanation, but suggestion. When you stop giving her every detail, she starts creating her own story. And that story is far more interesting than the real you. You've seen this play out before. She obsesses over the guy who barely texts back, replaying 2 words for hours, but the man who replies instantly with long paragraphs. He's forgotten in minutes. One looks busy, rare, in demand. The other looks free, eager, replaceable. Scarcity creates value. Abundance creates boredom. And it doesn't stop at texting. In person, too. Mystery drives attraction. The guy who reveals everything comes across as needy. The one who speaks less holds the room. He lets silence breathe. He lets her wonder. And that wondering is where desire lives. Not in knowing, but in guessing. Men hate this idea because it feels backward. We're taught effort equals reward. Study more. Earn better grades. Work longer. Make more money. But with women, it's inverted. The less you give, the more they want. The more you chase, the faster they run. Here's the danger when you flood her with access. You kill the very tension that keeps her hooked. You become predictable. Predictability feels safe, but safe doesn't feel sexy. She doesn't fantasize about the man who's always available. She fantasizes about the one who makes her wait, wonder, and worry. So here's the loop you need to remember. Mystery creates questions. Questions create tension. Tension creates desire. And desire is the fuel of attraction. Break the loop with overcommunication, and the engine dies. Keep the loop alive with silence, and she won't be able to get you out of her head. In the next part, I'll show you why this isn't just psychology, it's biology, and why evolution itself wired women to crave the man who says less, but means more. Attraction isn't just psychology, it's biology. For thousands of years, men didn't survive because they were great talkers. They survived because they acted. The hunter who bragged too loudly around the fire didn't make it back from the woods. The one who stayed quiet, alert, decisive, he lived. Women are hardwired to recognize that difference. They don't consciously think, he talks too much, he must be weak. But their biology feels it. Silence signals strength. Here's the twist. Not words, but actions. Not validation, but presence. That's what registers as high status. Every time you overshare, you don't just sound insecure, you broadcast low value. You announce, "I need you to understand me. I need your approval." And the moment she feels you need her more than she needs you, respect evaporates. Look at the natural hierarchy. A CEO doesn't explain himself to the intern. A king doesn't justify his orders to peasants. An alpha wolf doesn't hold a group discussion before making a move. Power is shown through decisiveness and restraint, not chatter. Yet most men flip it. They over-explain. They justify. They try to make her see their point. In her subconscious, that's not leadership. That's submission. Think about the signals your behavior sends. When you're always ready to respond, you're signaling, "I have nothing more important than you." When you explain every choice, you're signaling, "I'm unsure of myself." When you chase with words, you're signaling, "I have no other options." She doesn't need to process this logically. Her instincts do the math in seconds. And the result is simple, low status equals low attraction. Here's where it gets even more dangerous. Men assume communication builds equality. They think it makes them partners. But female nature doesn't experience conversation that way. Every word is a status check. Who talks more? Who explains more? Who asks for validation? Whoever does these things is lower on the hierarchy. Not equality, but imbalance. Not bonding, but ranking. And the more you talk, the further down you place yourself. That's why mystery works. Silence implies you're busy. It suggests you have better things to do. It frames you as a man with a life that doesn't revolve around her. And in her mind, that equals higher status. The man who doesn't explain is assumed to be confident. The one who doesn't justify is assumed to be powerful. The one who doesn't seek approval is assumed to have options. So here's the loop biology interprets. Silence as strength. Strength creates status. Status drives attraction. Break the loop with overcommunication, and you look weak, needy, forgettable. Keep the loop alive with quiet confidence, and you radiate the kind of presence evolution designed her to desire. And this is only the foundation. Because the next truth cuts even deeper the more you talk, the faster you destroy the very respect you're trying to earn. In the next part, you'll see how overexposure doesn't just dull attraction, it flips it into contempt. Here's the brutal irony. The harder you try to connect with words, the faster you kill the very connection you want. Attraction doesn't die in silence. It dies in overexposure. Think of it this way. At first, your words were rare. They felt like gold coins. Every text mattered. Every reply carried weight. But when you start flooding her phone with updates, check-ins, and explanations, your words lose all value. They go from treasure to pennies scattered on the ground. Easy to ignore, easy to dismiss. Here's the twist: not more access, but less. Not full disclosure, but selective revelation. Because the more you reveal, the more ordinary you become. She stops imagining. She stops wondering. She stops feeling that spark. What once felt like mystery now feels like routine. And routine is where respect dies. When she can predict your every answer. When she knows your stance on everything. When you respond instantly every time she no longer sees a man. She sees a utility. A comfort blanket. Something reliable but not desirable. And the moment respect vanishes, attraction follows. Men think over-explaining proves honesty. They think constant updates show loyalty. But her instincts don't read it that way. Overcommunication screams weakness. It screams neediness. It signals, I have nothing going on except you. And once that seed is planted, she can't unsee it. The danger is subtle, but deadly. Overexposure doesn't just lower attraction, it flips it into contempt. Suddenly, the things she once found charming become annoying. Your long stories sound like rambling. Your deep talks feel like oversharing. Your constant presence feels suffocating. She doesn't consciously decide it. Her biology just reacts. Here's the loop: the more accessible you are, the less valuable you become. The less valuable you are, the less she respects you. And without respect, there is no attraction. Not mystery, but predictability. Not tension, but boredom. That's the cost of talking too much. The tragedy is that most men never see it happening. They think they're building intimacy. They think communication is keeping the relationship alive. In reality, every extra word is another nail in the coffin. It's death by overexposure. And the deeper truth is still to come. Because once you understand why scarcity drives desire, you'll see how silence doesn't just protect attraction, it multiplies it. The next part will show you how distance, restraint, and unpredictability make you unforgettable in her mind. Here's what most men never realize. Silence is not weakness. Silence is leverage. Every unanswered text, every pause, every gap creates energy. She doesn't feel ignored. She feels unsettled. And unsettled is exactly what keeps her hooked. Think about it. When you reply in seconds, there's no tension. She knows you're free, waiting, available. But when hours pass and she still hasn't heard from you, her mind starts racing. Is he busy? With someone else? Doing something important that uncertainty fuels desire. Not your explanations, but her imagination. Here's the twist: not constant presence, but strategic absence. Not endless conversation, but rare words that matter. That's what keeps you valuable. Scarcity is powerful. It's why a limited edition sneaker sells out in minutes, while a pair on clearance sits untouched. It's not the shoe, it's the availability. Your attention works the same way. And the beauty of silence is this: it multiplies itself. The less you give, the more she invests. The more she invests, the more attached she becomes. She starts checking her phone, rereading old messages, dissecting every detail. You're not chasing her, she's chasing you. But inside her own head, that's obsession. Men hate silence because it feels like losing control. They panic. They want to fill the space with reassurance, explanations, validation. But here's the truth: not filling the silence is what creates control. The man who can sit comfortably in quiet radiates confidence. The one who can't stop talking radiates insecurity. This is why the most desired men are never fully accessible. They appear, they make an impact, and then they disappear back into their lives. Their attention feels like a gift, not a subscription. Every message they send has weight because it's rare. Every call they answer feels important because it's not guaranteed. Here's the loop: silence creates mystery. Mystery creates questions. Questions create tension. Tension fuels attraction. Break the loop with overcommunication, and the spell is gone. Keep the loop alive with silence, and she can't stop thinking about you. And here's the danger if you ignore this principle. You'll keep smothering attraction with words, confusing comfort for desire. Comfort feels good, Desire feels unforgettable. Which one do you want in the next part? I'll show you why this isn't just a trick for high-value men. It's the one advantage average guys have over the tall, rich, flashy types. Because mystery doesn't cost money, status, or genetics. It only costs discipline. Here's the part no one tells you: mystery levels the playing field. You don't need 6 figures, 6 feet, or 6-pack abs to compete. What you need is the discipline to keep your mouth shut. Think about it. The flashy investment banker brags about his Porsche. He's loud, visible, always selling himself. But the quiet guy driving a Honda Accord, he says less, lets her wonder, and suddenly feels more intriguing. Not status symbols, but self-control. That's the real advantage. Here's the twist: not exceptional looks, but exceptional restraint. Not showing off, but holding back. The bartender who barely speaks often outshines the lawyer who explains his whole resume. The mechanic who answers in short, confident lines gets more respect than the surgeon who can't stop talking about his career. Silence bends perception. It makes the ordinary feel extraordinary. And this is where average men win. Because mystery is free. It doesn't require money, height, or genetics. It only requires that you resist the urge to overshare. The less you say, the more she fills in the blanks. And what she imagines is always bigger, better, and more attractive than reality. Think of it like this when you tell her about your job. She judges it. When you say nothing, she assumes it's more important. When you describe your weekend, she sees it as ordinary. When you leave it unsaid, she imagines excitement. Her imagination is your greatest ally, but only if you give it space to work. Here's the loop. Silence creates fantasy. Fantasy makes her invest. Investment turns into obsession. By the time she realizes you're just a regular guy, she's already emotionally hooked. At that point, reality is a small letdown, not a deal breaker. That's how average men compete with exceptional ones. And if you ignore this, you'll keep trying to prove yourself with words, never realizing that every explanation chips away at attraction. You'll think you're leveling up, but you're really downgrading yourself with every unnecessary detail. So the question is simple. Do you want to play the game on hard mode, competing with men who have more money, more looks, more status? Or do you want to use the one advantage you already have? Silence to flip the script. Because in the end, mystery is taller than height. Mystery is richer than money. Mystery is sexier than looks. And it's available to every man who has the discipline to use it. Here's a hard truth. Most relationships don't collapse because of betrayal. They collapse because of words. Not one big mistake, but thousands of small conversations that slowly drain attraction. At the start, you were mysterious. She leaned into the silence. She felt the tension, the chase, the spark. But over time, you gave her everything. Every thought, every fear, every plan. What you thought was intimacy became routine. What you thought was closeness became suffocation. And respect, the fuel of desire, evaporated. Here's the twist. Not betrayal, but overcommunication. That's what kills marriages. That's what empties bedrooms. That's what turns passion into boredom. Picture this: she once fantasized about you during the day. She replayed your words, your pauses, your unpredictability. Fast forward years later, and now you're her emotional sponge. You share everything: your doubts, your stress, your insecurities. She wanted a man. You became her therapist. And no woman feels attraction for her therapist. The signs are everywhere. Sex slows down, then it stops. You sense the distance, so you do what feels logical. You talk more. You bring up feelings. You suggest counseling. You believe communication will fix what's broken. But every extra word is another nail in the coffin. Every explanation is another step down the ladder of respect. And here's the cruel irony while you're pouring your heart out. She's fantasizing about the guy at work who barely acknowledges her, the man who says little, acts much, and leaves her guessing. She doesn't cheat because he's better. She cheats because he gives her space to breathe. He makes her feel the mystery you smothered. Here's the loop: words create exposure. Exposure kills tension. No tension, no respect. No respect, no attraction. By the time divorce papers hit the table, the relationship didn't die yesterday. It's been dying for years, damped by conversation. This is why so many men feel blindsided. They think, I gave her everything, so was it bad? I was honest. I communicated. Yes, and that's exactly what destroyed the spark. She didn't leave because you failed as a provider. She left because you failed as a mystery. And if you don't break this pattern, history repeats. Every relationship ends the same way: you talking more, her wanting less. You chasing with words, her escaping with silence. But here's the good news. If words can kill attraction, silence can revive it. In the next part, I'll show you the practical fix: how to speak less, create space, and rebuild the respect that overcommunication destroyed. If words kill attraction, silence revives it. And the fix is simpler than you think. Not talking more, but talking less. Not pouring out feelings, but creating space. That's how you rebuild respect and desire. Here's where most men fail. They sense her slipping away and go into panic mode. They text paragraphs. They overexplain. They ask, "What's wrong?" But every extra word makes things worse. The more you chase with communication, the faster she pulls back. The solution isn't doubling down. It's rewiring your instincts. Start with this rule: speak less than she does. Let her fill the silence. When she asks questions, don't give essays. Answer short, sharp, and let the pause hang. That pause is power. It makes her lean in. It forces her to invest. Second, answer with curiosity, not explanations. When she asks, "Why didn't you text back right away?" most men panic and explain. High-value men flip it. "Why do you think that's not rudeness? That's strength." It shifts the frame from defense to mystery. Third, get comfortable with silence. Most men fear it. They rush to fill every gap. Don't. Let silence breathe. A man who can sit quietly without needing to validate himself radiates confidence. A man who can't stop talking radiates insecurity. Fourth, be the one to exit first. End the call before she does. Leave the conversation while it's still alive. Don't drag it until it dies. Leaving first creates pull. It signals you have somewhere else to be, something more important than endless chatter. Finally, treat your words like bullets. Limited, precise. Every text, every call, every conversation should matter. When your words are scarce, they gain value. When they're endless, they become cheap. Here's the loop: less talk builds curiosity. Curiosity builds respect. Respect fuels attraction. and attraction keeps her invested. Break the loop with overcommunication, and you lose her. Lose. Keep it alive with restraint, and she'll chase you harder than ever. So the fix isn't complicated. It's discipline. Discipline to say less. Discipline to hold back. Discipline to let her imagination do the heavy lifting. Because in the end, women don't fall for the man who explains himself. They fall for the man they can't quite figure out. So let's be clear. You never lost her because you weren't good enough. You lost her because you talked her out of wanting you. Not lack of love, but lack of mystery. Not betrayal, but overexposure. That's what kills attraction. The fix is already in your hands. Speak less than her. Answer short. Embrace silence. Leave conversations first. Make your words rare, like currency that never loses value. When you stop flooding her with explanations, you give her space to wonder. And that wonder is what makes her obsessed. Remember this, women don't crave the man who gives them every detail. They crave the man they can't quite figure out. They chase the ghost, not the chatterbox. They respect the king who speaks little, not the servant who justifies everything. So starting today, flip the script. Don't explain yourself. Don't overshare. Don't drown her in noise. Make her imagination work for you. Because silence isn't empty, it's the loudest signal of strength a man can send. If you're tired of talking your way out of attraction, this is your wake-up call. Become the mystery she can't get out of her head. Now, if you want more insights like this, subscribe, hit follow, and stay tuned. Because the less you say here, the more powerful you'll be out there. Thank you for watching. Drop a comment below. What's the biggest struggle you want us to break down next? Let's build a brotherhood of men who rise above confusion and reclaim their power. See you in the next video.